Hello everyone, in this video we are going to look at the inverse function again. And in previous lesson we use a function table to find out the value of inverse function by checking graph or checking its function table. This time we are going to look at the equation of function to see how do we use the equation of function to find the inverse function. Let's check how do we do this. So to make it clear, I'm going to use a red to write down the steps and use another color to write down actually how do we do this. So as we mentioned, the inverse is actually dealing with the input and the output. We just swap the x and y. So first step, I'm going to rewrite the equation as y equals 3x minus 5, because as we mentioned before, function notation of f(x) same as y. Step 2, we are going to, as we mentioned, inverse function is switch x and y, right? So we're going to switch x and y. Sorry, I should use different color here. So y become x and x become y. Please pay attention here, we do not swap the whole thing. We just basically rewrite y as x as y. Next, is actually the major part of this step, we are going to solve for y. Like my co-teacher mentioned, is like get y by itself, or sometimes we say this, isolate y. So how do we do this? We're going to move everything around y to the other side. So like solving equation, we like using inverse operation to move everything around. First, we add 5 for both sides, and then we copy everything down here, so we still have 3 times y. So inverse operation, we are going to divide by 3 to get this. So now I have y equal x plus 5 divided by 3. But remember, the question asking us to find the inverse, so we are going to rewrite the final answer as f inverse of x. Like what we used before. Before is f of x. Now we're going to rewrite the y as f inverse x. So f inverse of x equals x plus 5 divided by 3. Some student might say, can I separate this? Yes, you can. We can also rewrite this as x over 3 plus 5 over 3. Some student might say, can I just do x plus, like x plus 5 over 3? This is a mistake. You have to be careful because, as we mentioned, this is a whole part, the top part, the whole part divided by 3. So do not just say, oh, x plus 5 over 3. It's actually each part is divided by 3. So you can keep this one as the answer or this one. They are all equivalent. Okay? So now let's check another example. In this one, as you can see, a little bit different from the one we had before. Before we have integer, like a whole number for the slope. Now we have a little bit different situation here. We have a fraction for the slope. See, how do we do this? So this time I'm not going to write down as the detailed step here, but we're still going to follow the steps here. So first step, we're going to write this as y. And then we switch x and y, so it becomes x and y like this. So basically we write this as x, y as x, x as y. Next, major part, we are going to solve for y. So how do we do that? This is minus 4. I'm going to add 4 for both sides. A cancel. So it is 2 over 5y equals x plus 4. So count here is a little bit tricky because we are dealing with fractions. So here's what we do. So when we deal with fractions, we don't want to deal with fractions. So the way we do that, we can times its reciprocal. The reciprocal meaning we flip it. We times 5 over 2. Since we do something like that, I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. And then I just, now 2 over 5 times 5 over 2 cancel. So it's become y equals. Here I can just use distributive property to write this. And here, let me write down the sign note. 5 over 2 times 4, which is 5 times 4 over 2, or you can simplify as 4 over 2 is 2, so the final here is 10. So this is a side note, plus 10. And then we write the final answer as inverse x, so 5 over 2x plus 10. There's actually multiple ways to deal with this step, so I'm going to use a little bit different color to represent this again. Some student might say, as you mentioned, I multiply this, can I just divide this? Yes, you can. But once you cancel this, but remember, this is fraction over fraction. So how do we divide by fraction? When you divide by fraction, you multiply its reciprocal, which is 5 over 2. Again, when you divide the top part, divide a fraction equals the top part times its reciprocal. So now you have exactly the same thing. You will get exactly the same answer as I show here. So it's going to be like that. Again, do not forget, the final answer is always, oh, actually I made a mistake. See, before it's g of x, right? So it should be g of -1, g inverse. Sorry for that. So let me rewrite the answer. So it should be g inverse of x, 5 over 2x plus 10. That will be it. So whatever the name of function, we just use for the inverse function. And that's it. That's the 2 examples here. I hope this video is helpful. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon, everyone.